In 1995, a commercial illustrator named Eric Powell created a character named Monster Boy for a comic titled Bestsellers.
Powell would tweak the character over the next few years, redubbing him the Goon in the process. Eventually, he would debut in a preview comic from Avatar Press in 1998.
After a falling out with Avatar, Powell took the Goon to the world of self-publishing under the banner of Albatross Exploding Funny Books in 2002. Eventually, these works would catch the attention of Dark Horse Comics, which ironically enough had actually turned down the Goon the previous year, and eventually the Goon would wind up moving to Dark Horse. The Goon would go on to great success, gaining critical acclaim and becoming one of Dark Horse's flagship titles. And today, we're looking at the Goon's self-publishing origins with The Goon, Volume 0, Rough Stuff.
A rather dapper-looking Goon, along with his buddy Frankie, greet the reader. Ever since the book got picked up by Dark Horse, the two have been living real sophisticated-like. Frankie even begins attacking the butler for trying to poison the two with raw sashimi. The Goon explains that what we're about to see is a retelling of his earlier adventures.
I guess maybe I should actually explain the premise of this series. The Goon is an enforcer for a reclusive gangster named Labrazio in an unnamed city in which the Goon has to share space with various other creatures like vampires, werewolves, fish people, and zombies. Joining the Goon is Frankie, a wisecracking kid that was bullied until the Goon stood up for him. The Goon's main nemesis is the zombie priest, who has gone about resurrecting several mobsters and other various creatures in an attempt to control all organized crime in the city.
At the headquarters of the zombie priest, in an area known as Lonely Street, the priest sets about creating a new weapon to take down the Goon. It's a giant zombie chimpanzee. Meanwhile, Frankie and the Goon are visiting Norton's, their favorite local tavern. Their appearance is somewhat surprising, as the zombie priest had recently put a $50,000 price on the Goon's head. A drunken werewolf tries to collect, and it leads to a bar fight. The brawl gets broken up by the arrival of a copper, who immediately arrests the Goon for disturbing the peace. The Goon knows the truth, the cop is on the take, and he sets about trying to escape with Frankie's help. However, the two then get jumped by the priest's newest associate, Joey DeBall.
Joey the Ball is a little person who somehow, someway, at a very young age, got his right arm permanently attached to a bowling ball. This is why, even though the rest of his body is fairly well proportioned for someone his size, his right arm is giant and insanely ripped.
Joey ties up the Goon and Frankie and leaves them in the care of his henchman while he contacts the priest. Joey's men beat up the Goon and leave him in the area of town known as Rat Alley. Rat Alley gets its name from the flesh-eating rats that live there. Back with the zombie priest, he's screaming at Joey DeBall. The priest wanted the Goon's corpse for two reasons. One, confirmation that the Goon would no longer be a threat, and he wanted to resurrect the Goon to have him serve his purposes. Joey's underlings draw their guns and open fire, which obviously has no effect on those who are already dead.
Yeah, these aren't the mindless, flesh-eating, only way to kill them is to destroy the brain zombies. These are more like Haitian voodoo zombies.
It's then that the Goon comes crashing in. He then starts taking down both zombie and ordinary mobster alike, prompting the priest to release his giant zombie chimpanzee. The Goon rips open the chimp's torso and then gouges out the chimp's eyes. The Goon then frees Frankie and the two return home. Later they order a pizza. I'm sure Dad ain't gonna have any problems with that. After a while, the Goon and Frankie finish another job by torturing two lackeys with a VHS copy of the First Wives Club. Meanwhile, the zombie priest continues to lament the Goon's swift defeat of his giant zombie chimp. However, the priest then gets approached by a group of G-men, government agents, and they're looking for information on one thing and one thing only: Labrazio. The Goon and Frankie use the info extracted from the chick-flick-fearing lackeys to track down a deal for some illegally obtained brains. A former Labrazio aide has been doing business with the zombies. A one-armed bum inadvertently alerts the zombies to the Goon's presence. The brawl is done in by Frankie discovering that the brains in question are of a porcine variety. You know, piggies. This causes the zombies to walk out on the deal. The Goon starts to work on Wally, the turncoat. But Wally bought along some insurance. He's hired Fritz and Jocko, two former lackeys for Joey DeBall that the priest stitched together and reanimated. The Goon starts to brawl with Fritz and Jocko. This attracts the attention of the guy who really runs the docks, Fishy Pete. Pete tosses everyone around until the Goon pulls out his talking chainsaw Mickey. Mickey then slices up all the Goon's foes. Meanwhile, the G-Men are in a graveyard where they've turned up something rather interesting. Later, the Goon and Frankie attend the funeral of a former contemporary named Brickhead Johnny. The Goon's eulogy is interrupted by Johnny's corpse reanimating. Johnny knocks out Frankie and manages to subdue the Goon long enough as the G-Men enter. Frankie then comes to find the Goon missing. The Goon was taken by the G-Men to the zombie priest for two purposes. One, to transfer the Goon's mind into a creature called the Biog. That's a biomechanical organism designed to be the next level in law enforcement in the zombie world. And the G-Men also want to know what happened to Labrazio, and they want to know that first. The Goon begins to go over his backstory. As a child, the Goon's ugly mud caused him to be abandoned. First by his father, and then his mother. Eventually he was taken in by his Aunt Kizzy, who was a carny wrestler. The carnival folk welcomed the Goon, allowing him to do odd jobs around the grounds. And also kill zombies. Mainly killing zombies. One day, the Goon saw the head carny talking to some big guy in a hat and trench coat. It was Labrazio, and he needed to lay low for a few days. The Goon was awestruck by Labrazio's presence and knowing that he had to meet him. As this is happening, Frankie has run to Norton's pub to help rally help for his buddy. Back to the Goon story. One day he actually managed to meet up with Labrazio by bringing him some food and coffee. As the two talked, Labrazio showed Goon a book containing the names of every person that owed the mobster money. Those he could, force into helping whether they wanted to or not. The two were then interrupted by the arrival of the cops. Labrazio tried to provide some cover fire for the Goon to escape, and a shootout began. However, Kizzy witnessed this and leapt into the path of the gunfire to protect a nephew. Labrazio killed the cops and afterwards took the Goon under his wing out of sorrow over Kizzy's death. The G-Men, though, they ain't buying the story. They saw Labrazio's grave, which the Goon had paid for in his own name. The Goon doesn't mind, though, as all of this was really just a distraction as he broke free from his bonds. The Goon begins mowing his way through both Zombie and G-Man, all the while flashing back to what really happened with Labrazio. The gangster never developed a soft spot. He just called Kizzy a dumb broad. The Goon then grabbed a stone and bashed Labrazio's skull in. Then the Goon grabbed Labrazio's book and hat. From then on, anyone who really wanted to talk to Labrazio would have to talk to the Goon. It's then that Frankie arrives with reinforcements just as the Goon takes down the final G-Man. The priest managed to escape, so the day was saved.
Now, this does technically end the story part of the Goon's self-published issues. However, there are actually a few backup stories in this that are done in the style of a Sunday comic strip.
First, we get a story of the Goon and Frankie trying to drive a demon out of a kid's soul. They accidentally get the wrong kid. Then we get tips from the Goon on how to raise a pet zombie. Next, we get the Goon trying to dispose of a satchel full of severed heads. Finally, we learn the consequences of buying milk from the wrong provider.
And so ends The Goon, Volume 0, Rough Stuff. The Goon, like I said earlier, would become one of Dark Horse's most enduring characters, being referenced in movies like Superbad and The Mist and television shows like The Big Bang Theory and Degrassi. Eric Powell was even trying to develop an animated Goon feature film. As for my thoughts on the book, well, the artwork is really top-notch. There's a great kind of horror noirish feel to it, and that's actually complemented by the crackling humor and the dialogue throughout the story. Not to mention, each of these stories is pretty much done in one, but there's a nice continuing thread through it, so it manages to balance both pretty well. I'd say the only real drawback is this book is pretty short. It's only 3 issues and those backup stories. Maybe if you'd want a more substantial read, I would say get this along with Volume 1 of the Dark Horse series. Also, the backups really don't add anything. They just kind of feel like filler. But those are pretty minor quibbles at the end of this. I'm going to give The Goon Volume 0, Rough Stuff, an A. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.